Ancient Anunnaki Laboratory in Romania and Extraterrestrial Disclosure. A new scientific study concludes that the TRAPPIST-1 solar system has 7 Earth-sized planets, some of which have stable atmospheres in the Goldilocks region. Organic technology will change your life forever, according to a former professional physicist. President Donald Trump's election victory is good for full disclosure of UFOs and extraterrestrials. The exopolitical implications of the total number of voters gained by the different Democratic and Republican candidates over the last 4 elections is very revealing. How will President Trump's re-election impact the upcoming congressional UAP hearing? These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to the November 9 edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. We have some very interesting stories to cover, as well as the implications and the fallout from the US presidential elections. So let's begin with this particular story that came out, and I think it is well worth reading. It is an article about how the deep state and the ruling elite have manipulated humanity for centuries. And so this is something that was published in the Intel Hub. And this is a story about how this control system was set up thousands of years ago and how the underground has been used as a base of operations for these elites, for the global elite, what some might call the Illuminati, the deep state, and their extraterrestrial allies. So this really also focuses on the monetary system, how the fiat currency that we use today is part of this control mechanism that was set up millennia ago by these deep underground elites. So definitely it is well worth reading this. I think it is a very succinct and explanation of the way in which the underground elite, with individuals who have very high IQs. I mean, this is, I think, a very important point that's made here in this article, that Tesla and Einstein have IQs that people can estimate to be like around 200. But what if we have these controllers, this ruling elite in these underground bases or these underground civilizations with IQs closer to 500? I mean, it's startling to think of, but I think this is what we need to start doing, is understanding that the people that have been really manipulating our planet, that they operate with cycles of time which are unfathomable for the majority of ordinary humans. We think in 2 years, 4 years cycles. In the military, you've got 5 years and 10 years. These people, because of their intelligence, because of this high IQ, they can think 50 years ahead, 100 years ahead. This is kind of like very hard to fathom. So anyway, this is what we are up against. So well worth taking a look at that article on the Global Intel Hub. Okay, so this is a very significant interview I did with Elena Danaan. So this was released this week on my different channels. Patreon, the early access was on Patreon. Then a few days later, it was released on YouTube and Rumble and also Spotify. So here we talk about, in this interview I did in Bucharest with Elena, we talked about her investigation along with Karina Pataki. I was also part of that. Several Romanian researchers were with us, where we found evidence of the underground facility there in the Bujej Mountains near the what's called the Romanian Sphinx. And there was a psychic, or I guess you'd call it a psychic projection into that laboratory. They're immediately above it. Elena and Karina Pataki are immediately above it. And so they talked about what they saw. And Elena goes in this interview, she talks more about what they saw in terms of it, rather than it being a hall of records that is depicted in the Radu Cinema book series, Transylvania Sunrise, that facility there high up in the Bujej Mountains is actually an ancient Anunnaki laboratory. Elena says she recognized that it was virtually identical to one that she has past life memories of, as someone who was involved or was part of that Anunnaki presence on Earth. So, a fascinating interview. Definitely take a look at it, just to kind of open your mind to the possibility that a lot of these underground facilities around the planet that some might consider to be halls of records may actually, in fact, be ancient laboratories built by the Anunnaki and other visiting extraterrestrials. So here is the latest live drop by JP, and JP has opened up a Patreon account. And what he does on his Patreon account is that he releases short videos where he gives more details, more first-hand information about the different missions he's been on, that he's done reports with me about, which have been published on my website, that have come out in the books. There's 3 books so far in the series. So what JP does is that he picks one of those chapters in those 3 books and just goes into more detail about what he personally experienced. So it's a great way to get more information about what's been happening with JP's missions. And also it's a great way for you to support JP, because now he has a Patreon channel, and now that he's officially retired from the US Army and he's living on an Army pension, this is a great way for you to show your support for JP so he can keep doing what he's doing, which is just sharing information about his various missions. So yeah, just you can go to JP's Patreon account, and the link is there in my Twitter feed. Here's a study that just came out about 7 Earth-sized planets. And what this study has done is identified that these planets, some of which have already been identified to be in the Goldilocks regions, that some of these planets have stable atmospheres. So that is the new data from the James Webb Space Telescope that shows that the TRAPPIST-1 system is a great candidate for planets that have atmospheres in the Goldilocks region where intelligent life is living. And in fact, this is probably going to be where the first announcement of the official discovery of extraterrestrial life is going to happen. I mean, you can bet on it. Is it going to be the TRAPPIST-1 system? Is it going to be some other solar system where the James Webb Space Telescope is going to say, "Oh, we found biosignatures of life," or would it be technosignatures? Now, it's very interesting that in Elena Danaan's books, I believe it was her first book, A Gift from the Stars, or possibly the one after that, We Will Never Let You Down, where she talked about the TRAPPIST-1 system, and she said that it had 7 planets that were inhabited, something like that. And that is something that now we find being slowly corroborated, because previously it wasn't known if the TRAPPIST-1 system had stable atmospheres in the kind of Earth-sized planets that were discovered. So now that it's been confirmed that these are stable. So that is another corroboration for the information that Elena Danaan has released. Okay, so here is a new documentary by Darcy Weir, and he's done quite a number of documentaries dealing with UFOs. And this is a kind of unusual one because his approach here is to focus on the controversy surrounding Corey Goode in particular, and also David Wilcock, but mainly Corey Goode when it comes to his secret space program testimony. And Darcy Weir makes the claim in this two-part series that the information that Corey Goode came out with and that David Wilcock kind of amplified and put out there, that was a cosmic con. And that was a surprise to me. I really think that Darcy Weir's videos have been, I have interviewed him once, and he has put out some good documentary information. But in the case of Corey Goode and David Wilcock, when it comes to secret space programs, Weir appears to take the position that this was all a cosmic con, that the whistleblowers or the insiders, such as Corey Goode or Dr. Pete Peterson or Bill Tompkins, that none of that was genuine, that was just a big con that was amplified by Wilcock, and that is something that has discredited the movement or discredited ufology. Now, I do take issue with that. I mean, I think that this did not at all begin as a cosmic con. I think Goode's testimony was very consistent with the testimony of others, such as Bill Tompkins. And it's very interesting that in part two of this two-part documentary, Darcy Weir gives what I think is a very poor account of the contribution William Tompkins made to the field. I mean, he kind of made it out that Bill Tompkins was old and really just being spoon-fed information from a number of people such as myself to concoct corroborating information for this secret space program, information that was being put out by Corey Goode, David Wilcock, and others. Now, I have to take issue with that because Bill Tompkins actually had a lot of documentation that he supplied. And also, I was able to get my hands on 1,500 pages of Freedom of Information Act documents that corroborated key aspects of Bill Tompkins' testimony. And Bill Tompkins did work at a major aerospace company that was involved in the study of anti-gravity technology, and that presumably did play a big role in the development of, or the design of, the first secret spacecraft. And that is something I've discussed in my books. So anyway, I think the important thing to kind of like keep in mind here is why now? Why come out with this two-part series really attacking information about Corey Goode, put out by Corey Goode, David Wilcock, and the secret space programs? And I think that there are a number of very credible people that have come forward talking about this. Here I mentioned some of these people: Bill Tompkins, Michael Ralph, Tony Rodriguez, Randy Kramer. Yeah, there's some people, and some of those actually predate Corey Goode by quite a few years. And I don't want to get into what I think happened with Corey Goode, why he has all this controversy around him. I've talked about that in the past, and you can read my tweet where I talk about that. But what I want to really focus on here is that there seems to be an attempt here, and this video series or this documentary by Darcy Weir is really portraying the secret space program genre, or the information that is kind of consistent with what Corey Goode was putting out. That is 20 backs, memory wipes, fleets of spacecraft operating out there. That all of that is now kind of thrown into the trash heap as like not credible. And what we're left with is kind of like claims that UFO craft have not been successfully reverse engineered. And that's the narrative that is coming out now from people like David Grush, Michael Schellenberger, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, and quite a few others that are really having a lot of mainstream media attention put on them. So their star is shining. And so their information, and of course we're going to have congressional hearings on November 13th. So this week, just 4 days from when you're hearing this, there'll be another congressional hearing. And several of the people on that panel, Michael Schellenberger, Tim Gallaudet, they are, and originally David Grush was going to be part of that, but I haven't seen that hasn't been confirmed they'll be part of that UAP hearing. He was a part of the earlier one, but the information coming from them is that there have been UFOs that have crashed, that have been retrieved, that aerospace companies are studying these and studying the non-human intelligence associated with that, but they've been unsuccessful in reverse engineering. So I do have to question whether or not Weir is really trying to kind of jump on that bandwagon, because it is getting a lot of attention, and kind of like in the process jettison the vast amount of information that's come out over the last 20 years concerning secret space programs. And I think that's a mistake on his part. But anyway, I thought I would share that with you. Here is an interview I did with Dr. David Clements, where he discusses the organic technologies that he has helped develop. And I think this is a very important point, and it's consistent with what some of the other insiders have been telling me, and the contactees that have been telling me, that when it comes to technology, there's a kind of process by which the technology begins as something that is developed, that's kind of inanimate, as like technology that we use all every day, like a car or an airplane. We think of that and use that as an inanimate object, and that it doesn't really have a consciousness. Now, according to David Clements, he is able to develop living technologies where there's a consciousness associated with that technology, and that is based on his interactions with these more highly evolved extraterrestrials, where all of their technology is organic and living technology that has an organic consciousness associated with it. And that's very interesting, given the information I've received from people like JP and David Adair, who have interacted with these spacecraft that have this organic consciousness, and that consciousness animates the craft. So David Clements, he is developing technologies that have this organic consciousness or plasma consciousness associated with it, and how that can actually create a bioenergetic field around you or around a particular area to protect you from harmful EMFs coming from less sophisticated technologies. So definitely worth taking a look at that video. And David Clements has developed some technologies that he does sell through his website. He has a couple of websites, icinfinigy.com and infinitesourcecreations.com. So either one of those, you can go and you can purchase some of his devices, and he does have a discount code that you can use to get a 5% or to get a discount, and I get a kickback from that. So that's always nice. But definitely, I think this is technology that can be very, very beneficial. I know it worked for David Icke's organization, Iconics, where in one of my earlier videos, I presented a little bit of a clip from where the Iconics office with 20 people, they experienced a dramatic change in the kind of atmosphere, or in the fields, the electromagnetic fields in their office, once they placed one of these technologies in their office. And that really helped them deal with a 5G tower that was near their office where they were getting sick previously. But once this technology was put in there, then they experienced a dramatic recovery. So very important to know that there is a way to protect yourself from harmful EMFs. All right, so here is my first comment concerning President Donald Trump's victory or re-election on November 5. So this came out November 6, and I think this is a very positive development for UFOs, for disclosure, full disclosure of UFOs and extraterrestrial life. I think that what Donald Trump did in his first administration in setting up Space Force, in setting up US Space Command, and really trying to push for the release of advanced technologies, that is what we really needed to do. Whereas since that time, during the Biden administration, the whole UFO issue has been kind of slow walked. I mean, we've had some developments, such as the UFO hearing in 2023 with David Grush. That testimony came out, but that didn't have any kind of impact in efforts to pass a UAP Disclosure Act. Now, where I think Trump's victory is going to have a tangible effect on full disclosure is his explicit support for Elon Musk and SpaceX for sending humans to Mars by 2028. And I think that is a very important commitment that Trump has made, because if he is able to get Musk the kind of support he needs to be able to send these Starship missions to Mars, so that by 2028 you have the first manned landing on Mars, that is going to be important for driving disclosure forward, because what's really happening on Mars, in outer space, the moon, that has been covered up for decades now, because astronauts that are part of NASA have been threatened into silence. Now, if Musk starts sending colonists to Mars, it's going to be impossible, I believe, to cover up what's really been going on up there. And I think this is a very good thing. And also, it will spur the release of more advanced technologies, so that colonization of the moon and Mars and beyond is able to move ahead. So more advanced technologies will be released, and these are some of the conditions that the Galactic Federation of Worlds actually stipulated for disclosure, that they wanted humanity to have more advanced technologies released, so that we become a spacefaring civilization, so that way that when the Galactic Federation shows up, it's not going to be so much of a psychological shock to the rest of humanity that, oh wow, human-looking extraterrestrials are here, and it's just like First Contact in the Star Trek series, where it's like, they're here to help us move forward. But we've reached a point where we are already an interplanetary society with the propulsion systems to get out to the planets and start colonization. So I think that's what SpaceX and Musk are doing, and that's part of this rollout, I think, of advanced technologies that's going to meet the conditions for the Galactic Federation of Worlds to reveal itself, because that is exactly what was told by Professor Haim Eshed during the first Trump administration in December of 2020. The final few weeks of Trump's first administration, Eshed let it drop that the Galactic Federation was ready, had been asked by Trump to reveal itself, but it had told Trump that humanity wasn't ready yet, that we haven't had reached that level of advanced technologies to warrant them revealing themselves. So I think this is what the benefit of Musk pushing forward into Mars colonization is going to do, that we will meet that requirement and the deep state won't be able to stop it. Okay, now there is a documentary that was made by a Japanese videographer of Elena Danaan, her physical interactions with the Galactic Federations of worlds. And I think Elena her story is really taking off in Japan, as evidenced by this documentary.
In this video, Galactic Federation envoy Elena Danaan reveals a rare record with the Venusians. A 9-year-old girl born in France was kidnapped one day by the ruthless and malevolent alien Gray. Yes, this is a case of alien abduction. She was only 9 years old when Gray took her away. Gray inserted something called a hyperdimensional tracker into the back of her skull. The device, called a hyperdimensional tracker, is designed for remote monitoring. It emits a pulsed signal, which is then relayed to a base in Gray. This was part of a program to hybridize the Gray race. She was abducted in what is known as an alien abduction, and subsequently, she was rescued by kind-hearted extraterrestrials. It was then that her communication with various aliens began.
All right, so there you have a little bit of an idea of how this documentary presents the life and context of Elena Danaan, and it is quite a remarkable story. And I think Elena is destined to really make an impact on many millions of people as awareness of extraterrestrials, the Galactic Federation, grows. And certainly the people in Japan are very aware of her, and they are welcoming her as right now she is in Japan. So definitely worth taking a look at that documentary. Again, just go to my website or my Twitter feed so that you can actually access that that particular link. And you can even go to my website, exopolitics.org, because my Twitter feed is on the website as well. So definitely take a look at that. Now, here is something that I'm going to be discussing in depth in my upcoming webinar, my monthly briefing. I'm going to talk about this document or this graph, and it shows quite dramatically what has happened over the last 4 elections. Here you have the 2012 election when Barack Obama beat John McCain, and you can see Barack Obama got around 65 million votes, the popular vote. Here you have 2016 when Hillary Clinton faced off against Donald Trump, and even though she got roughly the same number of votes as Obama, Trump was able to win because he won the Electoral College, and what mattered was that he got sufficient votes in those states, the swing states, that led to him becoming the first president. So that was a surprise. Now, here you have the Biden 2020 election, and compare that to how many votes Kamala Harris got just last week. Again, 65 million votes for Kamala Harris, on par with what Hillary Clinton got and what Barack Obama got. And you can see that the Donald Trump in 2016 and in 2020, his popular vote increased dramatically. But here, what happened with Biden, I think this to me is very clear evidence of a massive election theft. And I think this is not going to be something that's just going to be relegated to history and something that is going to be forgotten. I think this is going to be something that becomes an issue of tremendous importance, because what it did was this election theft took us into a different timeline as a planet. So the entire 4 years of the Biden administration, that was a timeline totally contrived by the deep state and the negative extraterrestrials who controlled their minions to bring about a number of regional wars that could escalate into a global war, and also an attempted civil war. So later on today, I'm going to be talking much more about this. I'm going to go into depth into this destructive timeline and how the timeline has been restored with the re-election of Donald Trump here in the red. So yeah, quite remarkable what happened. And I think for those of us that knew that this 2020 election was an election theft, I think now we can better understand how it was done and how this was really an attempt to shift us into a destructive timeline, and how it almost succeeded. But yeah, more about that in my webinar today. I will talk shortly about that. Okay, so I've already talked about this, the Anunnaki laboratory found in Romania. And here is where I talk there's a short little description here on my exopolitics.org website, where I talk a little bit about the implications of the re-election of Donald Trump and how that's going to impact disclosure. So this short article I did on my website, it talks about Professor Haim Eshed, how he spilled the beans about Donald Trump asking the Galactic Federation to reveal itself, and how the deep state thwarted the disclosure back during the first Trump administration, and then stole the election so that we would move from a timeline which was a Star Trek future involving extraterrestrial disclosure to a timeline where there wouldn't be disclosure. We would be thrust into these escalating wars, and then eventually we would have a destructive nuclear war and a world war. That was the timeline that the Biden-Harris administration was taking us down. But now, with Trump's re-election, that timeline has been averted. So I talk about this in this article, and also I'll be going into depth in my live briefing later today, where I talk about this. So today at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or 11 a.m. there in the Pacific Standard Time, that's when the briefing begins. There's two ways of joining the briefing. One is to become a Patreon member, and you need to join at the Solar Patron tier. Or you can just, if you don't want to be a Solar Patron, if you don't want to join Patreon, then you can just join by registering through PayPal. So that information is on my website for how to register, either by becoming a Patreon member or by going through PayPal. Okay, now here is an announcement, and this concerns the first Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection Conference that will be happening in England, in Sussex, England. That will be running from, let's see, I think it's May 10 and 11. So here's the website. Let's take you to the website, GSIC 2025. And yeah, so here's the website, announcing this conference in London, near Sussex, which is near the coast. And Elena Danaan will be presenting. I will be presenting. Tony Rodriguez will be presenting. JP will be there. Danny Henderson is the MC. She'll also be presenting. Some others, Hugh Newman, who is a megalith expert. So I'm looking forward to meeting him. And so there's a few others, Jay Ainsworth and Nikki Allen. So definitely it's going to be a 2-day event. So this is going to be priced in a way that makes it affordable for people that want to attend physically these conferences. I mean, these conferences are really a great way to physically meet with people that are part of your star family. We need to kind of like progress beyond the idea that we are just star seeds or people that are interested in extraterrestrial life, surrounded by a public that is generally kind of like not very supportive or dismissive or outright antagonistic, or families. We all know about family members being antagonistic towards our personal experiences or beliefs. So these conferences are a great opportunity to meet and interact with other people. Lifelong friendships are formed, and the best is that you can actually meet members of your star family. So that is really very important. So I'll be there May 2025 in Sussex, England. Okay, now here is a post, a tweet concerning Tom DeLonge. And Tom DeLonge, here's the meme. He says that the UFOs are the old gods. Now, I think that is part of the answer to UFOs. Okay, let's take a listen to this. Let's take a listen to this. It goes for about a minute, so let's listen to what the explanation here is concerning UFOs being associated with the old gods.
The phenomenon is not used. Aliens is not used. It's the others, and when you're taught, the way it's explained to me is that they are gods, with the little g. So the entire UFO phenomenon is about multiple gods that fight amongst themselves and by design factionalize mankind into different religions to step back and let us fight each other, so it has other things that it wants to accomplish, and we don't notice them because we're too involved fighting each other. So, and they know that. So our government knows that. Our government knows that the others are instigating war amongst mankind. But the other issue is that these gods from you got to look back at ancient history and all those stories about gods that came down and did this and that. It's all true. The government is very aware that this intelligence is pitting different countries against each other based on religion, on purpose, and it's a scary scenario. So it's a multiple front war that we're fighting, because now we have to worry about each other and we have to worry about the others.
All right. So this is, I think, a very important point that Tom DeLonge makes, and they've released 3 volumes now of Secret Machines, and the latest volume came out where Tom DeLonge and Peter Lavender talked about the role of the gods. And I think that this is a very relevant point, that some of the UFOs that are being witnessed are associated with these ancient gods. Now, here we're talking about, of course, we can understand that some of the ancient gods, as in like Apollo or Zeus, or we're talking Odin, or we're talking Indra from the Hindu traditions, but also some of the other gods that are depicted to be not God with a small g, but also with a big G. We're talking about, say, Yahweh or Allah, or we're talking about these beings that are depicted as being all-powerful gods, that they in fact are extraterrestrials masquerading as gods. Or I think what Tom DeLonge and his associates are getting at is that these are more than just extraterrestrials, that they are interdimensionals, that they have certain powers and abilities, and that this is all wrapped up in the UFO phenomenon. So I think there's a lot of merit to that. And I think we also can't assume, though, I wouldn't agree with Tom DeLonge that all UFOs are associated with the old gods with a small g. That I think that it's important to understand that there are these off-world visitors, extraterrestrials, that use technologies that arrive here, both the positive and the negative factions. We're talking Draco Reptilian, the Orion Greys, or we're talking the Pleiadians or the Andromedans. That they are not the gods, the ancient gods that have had a presence on planet Earth for a long, long time. I mean, I think that this is a separate but related phenomenon. And then finally, we have the crypto-terrestrials. These are civilizations and beings that also have advanced technologies, but they have been living in the inner Earth for millennia. So the truth is going to shock many as it comes out, but that is going to be part of our awakening. And so I think there's a lot of merit to what DeLonge is saying here about the importance of understanding the role of the old gods with a small g and how that is relevant today to the UFO phenomenon. So here is a story about the hearing that's going to be happening on November 13. It's been announced that there will be a hearing, and that this is going to involve two subcommittees that are part of the House Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives. Now, here is a tweet concerning what was thought to be two witnesses that would be part of this hearing. Originally, it was thought that David Grush would be part of that hearing. That was one of the rumors, and Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. Now, the list of attendees that was just released, and what we know now, what's been confirmed, is that Tim Gallaudet, the former Rear Admiral, Luis Elizondo, who we know was the former head of this ATIP office that was set up informally in the Pentagon, Michael Gold, who was a former deputy NASA administrator, but also associated with the Bigelow Aerospace Corporation, and Michael Schellenberger, who has been kind of at the forefront in revealing some of the information from insiders concerning the crash retrieval operations and the attempts to reverse engineer these craft by corporations, and the discovery of non-human intelligence associated with this. Now, the immediate thing that strikes me, and it is kind of like sad in a way, is that you don't have any people with direct first-hand information or who have been involved in these programs. I mean, all of these people have been involved as researchers, as administrators, as investigators, but they haven't had hands-on contact with these craft or being taken off planet or anything like that. And that's unfortunate, because the information is out there. You know, there are whistleblowers out there, insiders out there. I mean, JP, I've been working with him for 16 years now. I mean, he's been on the craft. He's got photographs of the craft. He is now a former US Army veteran, but no one is following up on that. And then you have Stephen Greer with hundreds of witnesses that also have first-hand direct knowledge of these programs. And so this is unfortunate. I think what we are seeing here is going to be just a kind of small step forward, where you have experts, investigators, journalists, investigative journalists reporting on what they know, and that'll kind of definitely get the interest of members of Congress investigating this, but we're not having direct whistleblower insider revelations based on what they have handled. So that is something that really does need to happen for the disclosure process to move forward. But nevertheless, this is a step in the right direction. I think they can do better in future, and maybe some of these witnesses will surprise us and tell us about some first-hand experiences that they have had, as opposed to just being experts on the phenomenon based on their former positions in whether it's in the military or whether it's with NASA or as an investigative journalist. One more thing about this hearing is that this hearing, of course, is going to take place on November 13. And so one question is, well, how will this impact the incoming Trump administration? Will the Trump administration, will President Trump himself take interest in this UFO hearing and look into it, or make some commitments to explore it further? So that's something that we really look forward to learning more about. So that's it as far as the stories I want to cover. For those of you that are going to be attending the monthly briefing, I will be going into more depth into some of the issues that I've been raising. So I want to thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.